and a white police officer had killed a black man in a
Gotcha.
drug bust. And before they even buried him, when he was at the funeral home with visitation, two of his buddies was there, and that justice had to be served, and justice required a life for a life. It didn't
Wow.
matter who it was as long as he had the right color skin.
Wow.
And so they
Woo.
called for a taxi to come out. My uncle went out, and they walked up to the door of the taxi, and he rolled the window down. They reached in through the window and cut his throat and stood there and watched him bleed out.
Wow. Phew. Did you ever see anyone in the Klan rally on Saturday and saw him at church on Sunday?
I went to a Klan rally one night. They had it in a field down off of Baker Lane in Tuscumbia,
Wow.
and they had the huge burning cross out there that was as tall as a telephone pole.
Wow.
And
So when you welcome. Another episode of Hope is Not Enough. But you still gotta have hope. Now today, I have a very special but unique guest. And I say unique, and I mean that in the best way, because when I met this gentleman, it was a different type of night, if I could say that. You know, I know you're thinking it was wild and drinking and smoking and wilding out before. No, nothing like that. I was doing this program called Win the Race with a gentleman by the name of Scott Morris. Win the Race was about race relations. So WIN stood for what's important now. Race was the human race. Scott, middle-aged white male, businessman. P. middle-aged black male, businessman. And we began to talk about race and how, you know, we grew up differently and how can we bring this thing together? And if we had all the money and all the power in the world, how could we make blacks and whites and Hispanics and everybody get along? And we were gonna change the world. And so we started with this program in this little small church in Sheffield, Alabama. It seats about 120 people. The church was about 120 years old. It was a lot of historical, relevance to this. And we're in this place, and it's myself, my wife, my good friend Anthony Brooks, and a guy by the name of Junior Underwood. We were the only blacks in the room.
I thought it was more than that.
Maybe two more, maybe seven.
I thought it was a lot.
No, it might have been 7. It was under 10. It was under 10.
Okay.
And then you got 100 other people, who look more like Roger here. And I'm getting ready to introduce him in a minute. I know you're saying this is a long intro, but I need you to get this. And so we do this program, and Scott has his back to me. I got my back to Scott, and I'm like, I just want to live in a country that would judge me by the content of my character and not the color of my skin. And Scott says, I just want to live in a country that would judge me by the content of my character and not the color of my skin. I said, I just want my kids to be raised where they'll be judged fairly and have opportunities equal to everyone else. And Scott says, I just want to live in a country where my kids, and then we realized that we were saying the same exact thing and we wanted the same exact thing. And we realized that we were looking at the same coin, but from two different sides. And in that moment, that's when I realized, hey, this is special. This is going to be something special. And so everyone was on the edge of their seat and they're watching this black guy and this white guy go into this whole race relation and win the race. And we got to the Q&A. And when we got to the Q&A, my guy AB is walking around with the mic and he said, anybody have any questions or comments? And the guy was sitting on the front row with a pair of overalls on, a gray beard, and just kind of sitting there. And I got a question. I said, wow. And I don't know exactly what he said. I don't know if he said, before now, I never did like your kind. That's what it sounded like he said to me, like I never did like. I said, did he say your kind? Did he? And he began to tell a story about the Ku Klux Klan and about David Dukes and all these different things. And I'm looking like, okay, getting a little nervous in here. Big guy talking, and I begin to listen. And before you know it, I'm a big baby. I didn't cry, but I was just like, wow. And that man's name was Roger McCollum. And I met him that night. And I've never met anyone like him since then. And since that night, he's been my brother. And I just had to bring him on Hope Is Not Enough, because a lot of people have hope. But I say you need a little bit more than hope if you want to make that transformation. So Roger, welcome to the Hope Is Not Enough. I know that was a long, different type of introduction. Okay. Roger, tell us a little bit about where you grew up and how you grew up. Because a lot of people see where you are today. They see the compassion that you have today. But it wasn't always like that. What was it like for you growing up?
Growing up, Pete, was in the 60s in Alabama. It was during all the civil rights time, and there was a lot of racial unrest, violence, just all sort of things to an extreme. It was during the time of schools becoming desegregated. It was,
Gotcha.
And just everything going on. I can remember going into a Walgreens, I believe it was a Walgreens in Sheffield, that had a diner inside of it.
Wow.
And in the back, there was 2 different water fountains. There was one for white, one for colored. There was 3 different bathrooms.
Did you think that was different, or was that just normal then? I mean, you just kind of...
That's all I'd ever seen.
Okay, gotcha.
If all that you've ever seen,
that's all you know, right,
to.
Right.
And I had a relative that I was really close to, looked up to, and I thought he was top shelf.
Gotcha.
And he had grown up with an extreme amount of racial influence, and with Ku Klux Klan, other white supremacy stuff, and even with Robert Shelton back in
that's
early days.
That's early days.
And every time some racial event or conflict would happen, he was telling me, "See, I told you, that's all they're good for."
Gotcha. So he planted the seed at that time.
So if there's somebody, the only people that can influence you or hurt you are people that you know, love, and trust.
Gotcha.
People that you don't know,
right?
Love, or
they
trust,
can't. They don't have that power.
You won't give them that authority or opportunity. And so I believed what he was telling me. And through the years, there were different things. It was a lot of conflict at Sheffield when I was in junior high, and I left there, went to Dessler. The same stuff was going on there.
Wow. So did you have any encounters with Black people at that time, or it was just the perception that you had was what you...
There was some encounter because there was conflict all the time. And one of my best friends in high school, through one of those conflicts, got cut really bad and actually took over 100 stitches in his leg.
Wow.
And
I'm assuming from a Black person.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
And you know, when that happened,
gotcha.
That same relative is saying, "See, I told you."
Right. Wow.
And then around the Christmas of '74, I don't remember if it was just a few days before or a few days after, I had an uncle in Russellville that was a taxi driver. And there had been some kind of drug bust go on in Russellville, and a white police officer had killed a Black man in a drug bust. And before they even buried him, when he was at the funeral home with visitation, 2 of his buddies was there. And according to their testimony in court,
wow.
They said that they decided that justice had to be served, and justice required a life for a life.
Wow.
Didn't matter who it was as long as he had the right color skin.
Wow.
And so they
Ooh.
called for a taxi to come out. My uncle went out, and they walked up to the door of the taxi, and he rolled the window down. They reached in through the window and cut his throat and stood there and watched him bleed out.
Wow. What do you do when you lose the passion, but you still have to show up to work every day because you need the paycheck? I mean, you have the degree, you have the skill set to do what you're gonna do, but sometimes we need that boost, right? What do you do when the thing that you used to love, now you don't even like it anymore, right? Sometimes we need a boost. Everyone say, I need a boost. Somebody say burnout. What do you do when your passion doesn't match your paycheck? How do we build?
And his other relatives saying,
See,
I
told you.
It's getting close to home now.
Man.
And
so now you can feel the...
And so it was really feeling like he was telling me the truth. And I think all he was doing is you can only give what you've received, Pete.
Gotcha.
You can't give anything you don't possess.
That's what he grew up with.
And he grew up with it, and he felt like he was giving me the best advice that he could.
So at that point, what was I guess, do you remember the day or the time or the moment when like maybe you actually went to a meeting and said, okay, I'm a part of this, or was it a gradual? How did that play out?
I went to a Klan rally one night. They had it in a field down off of Baker Lane in Tuscumbia.
Wow.
And they had huge burning cross out there that was as tall as a telephone pole.
Wow.
And
so when you go, do you because we hear the stories about put on the white sheet and all this.
The members of it did, but it was open to anybody that wanted to come because it was more of a recruiting type rally.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that night, David Duke was there and speaking, and David Duke was a really emotional speaker.
Gotcha. Persuasive.
And you can manipulate emotion. You can start a riot.
Yes, sir. We've seen it.
And that was his job, was to create emotion.
Gotcha.
To recruit members. And that was the night that I decided
I'm going to be a part of this.
And by then I was already married, and my wife didn't want anything to do with it.
Wow.
She didn't want me to have anything to do with it.
But you were.
It didn't matter what she wanted. Roger was going to do what Roger wanted to do.
Wow.
And
so you, pretty much participated in whatever took place that happened.
At that point, I joined it, became a member, and this relative, at that time, he was, the leadership of it started with David Duke was a national leader.
Right.
And Don Black was second in command.
Gotcha.
And my relative was third in command in the nation. Wow. And he was thrilled that I was there.
That you were there. Wow.
And it was.
And it probably made you feel good that he felt good that you know.
And he was happy as a bird with a French fry.
Wow.
I had joined the family.
You joined the family. Wow.
And
so do you remember like some of the meetings, like putting on there? What?
Well,
at any point did it feel like, man, this is different, or this,
Yeah, it was different, but
it was just a way of life, though.
Yeah, it was, and they made me feel like I belonged to something, like I was part of a family.
Gotcha.
And he kept trying to influence David Duke and Don Black and whatever, that, we can trust him. He can do whatever we need him to. He's willing to. And he was trying to elevate and promote me.
Gotcha.
And,
so they must have saw something in you, though, at the same time. I mean, as far as leadership and
Yeah,
influence.
they saw somebody that was crazy enough to be a bodyguard for David Duke, and who's going to get the bullet if there's one there?
Wow.
They must have.
And I can't imagine how many people at that time was looking for him, you know.
So I think what they saw in me is somebody that was stupid enough to do it.
Wow. God.
So how insane you got to be willing to take a bullet?
You got to be willing to
for garbage.
Wow. So at what point did? Oh man. So at the time, you just living this life out. Your wife.
She's steady fussing about it.
She's steady fussing. You just kind of going out, living, you know, are you going to church or anything like that? Are you living, I mean, what's?
I believed at that time that what I was doing was right, that it was justified, that I wasn't ashamed of it with anybody.
Gotcha. That's who you
I
were.
never owned anything to cover my face. I had a robe and I had the cone head, but I never had anything to cover my face. If I had to cover my face to do something,
yeah.
I didn't.
So that's who you were at in that moment. Did you ever see anyone in the Klan rally on Saturday and saw him at church on Sunday?
I don't think so. But that reporter.
Well, okay.
And since I told him it's okay, every time he showed up at one of those rallies, I ended up on the 10 o'clock news.
And they saw your face.
And you know, somebody there saw it.
Wow.
And how many churches do you know that's less than 100 people that if you've got a member there that's a reporter,
yeah, somebody
that's putting you on TV,
yeah, somebody knows.
How many there do you think didn't know?
Wow. Did anybody ever say anything?
No.
Not a word. So what was the moment when Roger said, you know what, this is too, I don't want to say too much, but at some point you had to make a decision. What was that moment that made you realize, man, this is about to cost me everything?
Used to, David Duke would come to this area on a pretty regular basis, and Don Black, David Duke lived in Louisiana, Don Black lived in Athens, and my uncle was here and had a very rural place that he lived in, and they would come there for a day or two, and they'd get together and brainstorming of what's next and what they're going to do. But they also always wanted somebody there as security.
And so you were there. So you were able to listen in.
I was there in the presence of the top 3 in the nation, brainstorming of what direction they wanted to go.
Wow.
And then I'd go to a meeting that was open to general membership, and what they're telling here don't match what they were saying there. And then you go to one of the recruiting rallies, and what was saying here didn't match either one of those.
So
the truth was changing every time you got in front of a different person. Even as messed up as I was,
you knew that something wasn't.
The truth's the truth, and if y'all not willing to be,
gotcha.
I'm willing to stand here.
So you all in, you believed everything they said, and
I'm willing to stand here with no face cover at all, and you got to hide behind a different story depending on who you're in front of.
And then
they got busted, and their plan was that's going to the Dominican Republic, going to overthrow it and set up a white empire.
Wow.
And Don Black went to federal prison.
Wow. And David Duke went on
and David Duke had already gone his way. So the one that I had on a pedestal, now he stepped into the leadership.
And at this time now, you next to him.
I can't do this anymore.
Wow.
And so I left, and when I did, they decided I should be dead.
So they started hunting you, looking.
Well, they found me. One of the very few days in that time of my life that I wasn't carrying a weapon, some man come to me and told me, we're here to kill you.
How did you handle that?
I lied. I told them that I left with enough documentation that they could do what they wanted to do, but I'd take their whole organization down from my grave.
Wait, that sounds like some mafia stuff, Roger. You gangster.
And so they knew.
They knew you had been around.
They knew the wrath of the one that they was answering to, and while they were debating that, I turned and walked off, expecting to get shot.
And they did.
And I could hear them still talking, and they decided they wanted to go back and verify, you still want this to happen.
Wow.
And it never did happen. It was.
So at that point, you had already made the transition. And
well, I had already walked away from it. Mentally, I hadn't necessarily made the transition.
It was still there, but you knew that the direction they were going in, you did not want to.
And I didn't want God to help me. I didn't want anything to do with God. My wife was still, you need God.
Yeah, now tell me about that. So, because after this, you had another incident that took place that kind of, I guess that's the thing that hit your heart in between some other things. Share a little bit of that.
Well, over about a 20-year period of time,
right.
I was determined I was going to fix myself. I could do it. I didn't need God.
Wow.
How's that work for you, Pete? And I had a wife that had a strong faith that prayed for God to change me for 30 years.
Wow.
And after God finally did, or I finally allowed him to, God
you finally surrendered.
God will never change it.
You finally surrendered. Gotcha.
But after he did, I asked her, I said, why did you put up with my stupidity for that long?
Wow.
She said, I did because I didn't have a contract with you. I had a covenant with God. But 20 years into this process, the later and greater new and improved me that I had created.
Gotcha. Popped on the scene.
Come home and found a note on the back door from his daughter that said that I have found out I'm pregnant. It's a biracial child. I've moved. I've changed my phone number. Please don't try to contact me. And I had been gone away from it for all of her life. But
you felt like.
But apparently, yeah, I was the new improved.
I'm not that. I'm not.
But what had she seen during her life? What kind of monster had she seen in her dad that the day that she needed him the most, she ran the opposite direction? And
so the day and the time and the moment that she needed her dad the most, instead of her coming to him, she writes a letter and says, I'm leaving because...
And don't try to contact me.
Because in her mind, she's thinking, once she finds out she's pregnant by a black man, I can say that, that you're gonna, wow.
And I took my time and I reacted worse than she thought I would. My intention was to purposely destroy a relationship between me and her to where she could be dead. And God started working on me a lot.
But in that moment, though, you feeling...
In that moment, it was intentional what I was doing.
Gotcha.
But
so you thinking we're gonna get rid of the baby? We're gonna get rid of, I mean, what's going through your mind in that moment? You see the letter, and now it's did rage come upon you?
Yeah, and if I can just do something to destroy this relationship, I'll never have to see her, never have to see the baby, and we just won't. As far as I'm concerned, she can be dead. And God started reminding me that in January of 1980, I had a son born.
Wow.
That same day that my son was born, he died.
Wow.
And Satan had told me at that time that the reason God took your son was to punish you for a life you had chose. That's why I didn't want no help from God. Can you worship a God that would take your child
thinking that
to
would
punish
take your child? Yeah, that's tough.
I still couldn't, Pete.
Wow.
But I know that he didn't.
But in your mind, that's your thought. You're thinking that.
But at that time, that was as true as anything in my life to me. and I believed it, and I hated him. I cursed him. I didn't want anything to do with him. But there was a man that I had become friends with that helped me through that period that I didn't even realize that he was helping me at the time. And God had put him in my life to help me through that time. Wow. And whatever it takes, when God starts reminding you that you buried a son, that you didn't have any say in the matter, and now you're intentionally and willingly burying a living daughter. I didn't have whatever it took for that. And I went.
So you thinking, I don't care if she live or die.
At that point, I went back to her and I apologized for the way I had acted. Yeah. And I made her a promise that if she'd let me, me and her would raise that child, and if anybody else wanted to help, they could.
Wow.
And if they didn't, so be it.
You know, it's funny, you know, we started this whole thing off talking about the night that we met.
Yeah.
And when you told that story and you said, I want you to see this beautiful biracial boy, and the grandson stood up, man, oh God. Beautiful young kid. He might have been in high school back then. I mean,
he wasn't that old.
He wasn't, I mean, he was young.
He's 23 now, and that was about 12 years ago.
Yeah, so he was young. Yeah. And he stood up, and I said, that's your pawpaw? And he said, yeah. He had some stinking thinking. You remember that?
Yeah.
He said, you had some stinking thinking. And it's funny, just you sharing that story, how many people maybe still carrying that hate inside? And are you able to recognize it in others who may not, you know, I may look at them and may not see it, but you may look and see it or hear buzzwords. What do you do when you see that? And do you see that a lot?
I don't see it a lot. I think that that there's a lot of people that it's still a part of them that they don't realize that it is, just because they grew up in a society to where we grew up living in different neighborhoods.
Gotcha.
How many white people lived in the neighborhood you grew up in?
Not many.
Same number of black ones that grew up, you know.
Right, same thing, right.
When I went, the first black person that I ever saw in the school that I went to, I was in the 6th grade.
So when you saw them, what were you thinking? Did you touch them and say, man, is that real?
I did not touch them. I might have been afraid he'd rub off, you know. Or something.
What were you, I mean, like, what?
Because
you got this belief system.
My 6th grade teacher was pregnant at the beginning of that year, and when we went to Christmas break, she didn't come back. And the teacher that they replaced her with was a black lady named Miss Oliver.
Wow.
And she had a son that was in the 6th grade, and he came with her. And they were the only 2 black people in that school.
In that school.
Wow. And that school was the same building that Rescue Me Project's in now.
Wow, same building.
Huge.
That's huge.
God has gone full circle.
Full circle. So when you look at from that incident to your daughter, to the encounter with God, and then you look at the world today and you see people, racists still fighting, still, you know, thinking one thing and prejudging. What would you say the solution is? What if you could say 1 or 2 things to someone who's watching, saying, that's just you, what would you say, some strategies or solutions?
There's only one solution to it. There's steps to get to that solution.
Gotcha.
But the solution is to allow God to do the same thing with you that he did with me and give you a heart transplant.
So it got to be a matter of the heart.
But I have watched my grandson experience it through his life.
Oh, so being biracial, he's
from both sides.
So
he's got a foot in two worlds.
So he's not black enough for one group. He's not white enough.
When we went to the hospital the day that he was born, we were all sitting in the waiting room. I was there. My wife was there. My parents were there. The grandparent and aunt from the black grandmother and the black aunt.
So everybody's here.
And there was a kid there that's my grandson's cousin, and at that time he was 4 or 5 years old, and my mother didn't care.
So did your mother?
My mother didn't care what color you was.
Okay.
Babies needed loved.
Gotcha.
And so she was trying to play with and take up time with this young kid that was there. And she was talking to him. She said, "Are you going to love this new baby when he gets here and play with him and love him?" And no. He said, "Why?" He said, "My granny says he's not going to be black enough."
Really? Wow.
So, he was coming into the world and had already been rejected by both sides of his own family.
Wow, catching it.
But God sent him
to
save me from myself.
Yeah. Somebody may be looking at the same coin from two different sides. I'm saying go to the other side and see. And instead of prejudging and judging, man, let's have a conversation. It may be uncomfortable. It may be a little weird. Because that night when you said what you said, I got to be honest. I said,
you was ready to get AB to get me out of there.
I said, man, we got to get him out of here. But once you begin to talk, I hurt your heart.
But if you didn't know where I had come from,
yes,
could you have ever appreciated where God had
never would have appreciated.
And something that I would like to say as we're closing, that unmerited grace from God, what it led to was a grandson that's been one of the largest human blessings in my life.
Wow.
For the last 6 years, he's lived with me.
Wow.
Not because he had to, but because he loved me.
Man, that's so powerful.
And he was there before my wife died. He helped me with her, and he was there after she died and helped me through a time of grief and depression. And you saw when he was there, even at that young age, he knew about my past. There was no secret about my past.
He said you had stinking thinking.
But he loved me anyway.
Wow.
Just like Jesus does.
Unconditional.
And I'm in a new chapter of my life now. Day before yesterday, Kobe moved out of my house. He bought his own house.
Gotcha. He told me, he didn't tell me he was getting ready to do that, but he told me he was working on something.
We closed on it Thursday.
23 years old.
23 years old.
Man, I know you're proud.
And he is anybody that don't know him, their life would be richer if they did.
They did. So anyone who's watching, I want to leave you with this. Sometimes the greatest struggle can bring the greatest strength. Sometimes what's painful and problematic in one season could lead to purpose and passion in another.